Hi everyone, this is Latoya Dixon Smith, co-founder and head of product at Blaze Group LLC, and today we are here with Flo Nicolas, who is one of our Blaze Business Award winners, the very first Blaze Business Award winners in the category of Best in Tech. Flo, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it, Latoya.
Awesome. So let's get right into it. So the voters have spoken and they've chosen you as the best in tech. So can you tell us more about what is the work that you do and how it applies to the technology space?
Sure. So I am a co-founder and chief operating officer at DEI Directive. So when you first hear like DEI, automatically people think, oh, workshops and consulting, type of thing in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. All that is still needed and it is a necessity. However, the other piece of that is that we are a technology company. One of the things that we've seen when George Floyd was murdered is an increase in diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plans, hiring of chief diversity officers. Like DEI became the hot item during that time. And unfortunately now, what we're seeing is actually we're going backwards. Right, we're seeing chief diversity officers, just leaving, or budget cuts for diversity, equity, and inclusion that are heavily impacted right now, especially in the tech industry, as we see tech layoffs. So, what does this all mean, and what in the world am I doing? Well, one of the things we have realized is that although all the intentions are good when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, where some organizations are missing the mark is tracking the success of their DEI strategic plans. Talking to employees, engaging qualitative data, which is essentially how are employees feeling, right? Are they feeling like what we're doing to create an inclusive workplace is working? And how are we tracking that, right? How are we as leaders in these companies and organizations, whether it's colleges and university, how is everybody holding themselves accountable to ensuring that they're meeting these strategic plans and goals that they're setting? And this is where our company DEI Directive come in, because what we have, it's a software. And it's what we call it is our DEI data analytics intelligence platform, which helps organizations really hone in on the landscape, number one, of their company. And number two, get a better understanding by being able to have the ability to do surveys, right? Surveys are a great way to gauge employee sentiments. Right? Hey, we just launched a new DEI initiative. It's now been 2 to 3 months. Just wanted to know how you guys feeling, right? Because when you look out there at the data that's coming out, and most recently with Harvard Business Review, there is a discrepancy between what the people at the top are doing in terms of DEI and the impact to the people at the bottom of the food chain. There are some employees that don't even know. When a company launches their DEI initiative, there's some companies in there, the employees don't know about what's going on. Employees are like, what, wait, we do DEI at this company? So there's something that's not gelling, and this is why we believe in data analytics. This is why we believe in arming organizations with the ability to track what they're doing, to ensure long-term, and as well as to ensure that they're creating this sustainable DEI strategic plans, right? Because it's not a short-term plan. It's a long-term continuous journey to creating these inclusive workplaces. And that's what essentially DEI Directive is. That's what me and my co-founder, Alobi Akache, are working on. Is just the putting in the accountability into DEI strategic plans across all industries.
Oh, that is so good, Flo. Very, very clear and direct, because what it sounds to me that DEI directive is impacting is showing companies how what gets measured is what matters. If you're not
Exactly.
if you're not measuring it, and if there's too much ambiguity around, these targets, it's likely to be forgotten or, just swept under the rug, and we cannot afford to do that. I mean, I've been on LinkedIn, and even in some of these smaller, like more targeted groups, and hearing people talking about the layoffs that they are experiencing, and talking about the company culture and how it's really hard. And if companies are not engaging their employees and really listening to them in a way that, like you said, with tools that you all offer to measure that, I don't really know, where they're headed. So it's great to hear that you and your co-founders and your company have found a way to really operationalize these initiatives for DEI, and where data is really at the forefront. So absolutely see why you won Best in Tech. That is amazing. I've never heard of anything like that before.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it's something that we're very excited about. And the other thing is, like, we also remind people is there are laws out there, right? We have laws that are monitored, and also we have an organization like the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Office, essentially, right? And if you go to their website, they show the amount of bias and discrimination claims that their office helps essentially to combat. And they have collected over $500 million. And that's a lot of money, right? And so the other piece of our software is also the compliance piece, because with the EEOC, there's forms that companies have to complete. For example, there's the EEO1 form, which is a form that's completed by companies that have employees 100 or more. And it essentially has to give the breakdown of, the makeup of their workplace. So they have to complete that form and submit it to the EEOC. And our software actually automates that process, right? So now you're not running to different departments trying to gather the data and then have somebody dump it in an Excel spreadsheet and filter it and create it. Now everything is being automated for you. And our long-term objective is to continue to add more forms, templates into our system that help to streamline and automate some of these processes. Because when you're dealing sometimes with grants and funding, a lot of them have mandates for DEI, and they have mandates for reporting, right, to the federal government or to that administration that's giving you those grants. So DEI data analytics, for those who don't know how serious it is actually a very big deal. And there are organizations that get in trouble for not being compliant. And what we are essentially saying is, why get in trouble? You don't even have to rise to that level. You can be compliant. And that's the other focus piece of what our software does now, and we're going to add more. The banking industry has CRA compliance with the FDIC. That's another industry that we are targeting as well. So for us, it's with technology, DEI can be done successfully, where it's having an impact on the employees. It's having an impact in terms of being compliant to existing laws that prohibit bias and discrimination, whether it's based on race, gender, disability, ageism. It's just technology that we have essentially dedicated our time to create, and it is really for the benefit, not only for these organizations, but for our communities. Right? Because when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's a we thing, right? Mm-hmm. We as an organization, we as communities, whoever you are, it's a we thing. It's an effort that we all have to put in to ensure that we are creating these environments where people truly feel like they belong. And how we know that we're successfully doing it is by being able to have metrics, and not just, the whole check in the box, oh, we hired our token, Black person, or we hired our token gay and lesbian person. That's not going to work anymore. What we're seeing right now is a lot of DEI fatigue and burnout, which is quite common in this industry. And what we're trying to do now is, no more talking. What we need to show is the action that we are actually implementing to make a change. And the way you show that action is by tracking and having metrics.
Yes, it's about that action. I love that. So Flo, I am so incredibly inspired by your company, but I know that behind that too is your founder's story and your founder's journey. I would love to know more about what it took for you to even get here.
Right.
What is your background? Are you, I know you are Flo Nicolas Esquire. So tell us about that background. How did you move into tech? Does it take a technical background, or what does it take to even get to this point where you're taking these things that you're passionate about, your skill set, and bringing it together to make such an incredible impact in this industry that so very severely needs it?
Yeah, I'd love to do a background story. So when I was in high school, I was convinced I was going to go become a medical doctor. And I was actually really good in the sciences, with the exception of chemistry. That was not my subject. But at the same time, I was also doing speech and debate. I was on a team, and we would go out to competitions, and we're debating with other schools, and I just really loved that, right? But when I went to college, I was still like, medical school is the route. But then I had college calculus, and that just didn't happen. So I said, you know what? Is it really a medical school that I want to go to, or was I just thinking that direction because of family influence and money influence, right? And I was like, my passion is really, I'm very critical thinking is my thing, So when I went to college, I ended up really focusing more on doing English, and I also did, I essentially did so many philosophy classes. I could consider that as my minor because I loved those philosophy classes. From there, I put myself through law school, working in a call center, Comcast call center, not making that much money. I put myself through law school, went to work 7 to 3. Then from there, once I clocked out, drive to school, was at school, law school at night, until 10:30, almost 11 o'clock at night. So that was my life for about 3 years. But I was really, that was the thing that I loved. And I knew I was passionate about that. So I practiced for a little bit, but to be honest, it was a rude awakening for me being in law school, not really having the mentorship, which I love. What I'm seeing now is there's so many mentorship opportunities and internships opportunities for lawyers of color. I didn't have that when I went to law school, so it was a huge struggle. But I managed to find a small law firm that was willing to give me an opportunity, and from there I worked there, and I did bankruptcy, and I did real estate, and from there I was just kind of like I don't know if I want to deal with clients and go to court. I'm now focused on the family life, and driving back and forth to court. It was just a lot of hours sometimes that I had to put in, so I wanted to do something different. I wanted to leverage my law degree, and from there I got the opportunity to go corporate in a telecommunications company, and I was in the corporate technology operations department. And in that department, we were in charge of overseeing multi-million-dollar modifications to cell towers. So essentially, just think about this: your cell phones. You're able to text, you can talk and text, you can talk, text, and be on the internet, shopping, and all that stuff. Well, that's because my department was in charge of that. right? So I was part of the 3G project, 4G project. Before I left, I was part of the 5G project. I was working with engineers, regulatory team. I was overseeing outside counsel and other vendors. From there, that's where that technical aspect really kicked in. And one of the things I had to learn how to do was read engineering drawings, right? Understand what it meant that the engineers wanted, and those modifications were there in line with our license agreements. So there was a real estate component, legal component, technology component. So I really was able to learn quite a bit. Am I a coder or anything like that? No, I don't even have the passion, to be honest with you, for coding. I consider myself, and I heard somebody say this yesterday, a tech translator. A tech translator. And what that means is that I've just discovered I have this really unique ability to understand what's going on in the tech industry and be able to articulate it back to the layperson, right? Because not everybody understands all this mumbo jumbo that's out there. And from there, I decided to leave the corporate world because, again, what I experienced in the legal industry followed me into the corporate world, which is I was seeing and noticing discrepancies in terms of women being able to really flourish. And also showing up in rooms and seeing a lack of representation, looking at the org charts and seeing a lack of representation, asking for more money, asking for promotions, and just realizing that I wasn't being paid my worth, I wasn't being treated my worth, and that essentially for me, that love for what I was doing started to really vanish because I just really didn't feel like I was valued. But I knew I wanted to stay in the tech industry. So I interviewed with other companies for a little bit, but then from that point just ended up really kind of going into the entrepreneurship life, right? Because I was like, what can I do? I don't know if you remember that movie. It's kind of like, what can I do I can do all bad by myself, right? It was the movie. So that's the mentality I had was, what can I do all bad by myself? Because I still felt like, and hearing stories from other women in the tech industry, I really felt like, you know what? I want to prove that with my diverse background from legal to telecommunications, that I can create something on my own that is valuable and really be able to show my worth. And from there, I created my own TV show called Get Tech Smart. I had no TV background, no production background, but I said, you know what? F it, right? We hear people say you've got to get uncomfortable or get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I had to push myself into that uncomfortable zone. No matter how uncomfortable it was, I needed to challenge myself and created the show Get Tech Smart. And what I saw in my state in New Hampshire was there was so much emerging technology that was being created, but nobody really knew about it. So I created this show to put a spotlight on the emerging technology in my state. Started inviting tech guests, CEOs, big major companies in my state, and interviewing them to really feature them and showcase the technology that they were doing, the resources that they were offering in terms of internships and apprenticeships. And I've had this show now for over a year. Next year, 2024, will mark 2 years, going strong. Recently won the New Hampshire Tech Alliance Tech Professional of the Year Award. Recently won New Hampshire Business Review Outstanding Women in Business Award. From there, also started becoming more involved in my state in terms of really being a catalyst for change when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Started launching my own DEI networking events. And in the midst of all this, I was also chatting with my friend Malobi Akache, who was at the time building DEI Directive by herself. And I was cheering her on in the background. I knew what she was working on and what she was doing. And early on in 2023, essentially February of 2023, she said, I see some parallels here. You're out here in the tech sector, doing really well. But one of the things you're also doing is you're advocating for diversity, equity, inclusion. This is a perfect marriage, so I would love for you to come on as a co-founder and really help me build and scale. And it made sense to me, right? I'm out here advocating for technology. I'm out here advocating for digital transformation and leveraging technology. At the same time, also advocating for diversity, equity, inclusion. So it just made sense for me to join the company and also continue what I'm doing as being a tech educator and tech translator for others, but just doing it now where I'm also advocating for organizations to use DEI Directive to accomplish their DEI needs. And most recently, was selected as a speaker for next TEDx that's happening right here in my state as well. So so I've been very busy, really just trying to not only convince myself that I belong in a lot of these spaces, where we don't really see a lot of women, and on top of that, women of color, but also trying to convince others of my worth, that I do belong here, that I'm deserving.
Yes.
And clearly it's working because, I'm getting the awards, but it's also working because I'm getting people and organizations now reaching out, wanted to work with me, and wanted to see how they can be a part of this, essentially this movement that I'm creating.
Oh, that's amazing. Like, I'm so glad that you're getting your flowers, but I'm also, once again, inspired because what you just shared makes it no surprise to me that you have been brought into the fold of Blaze and our mission here. And you mentioned before we got started, the relationship that you've had with our CEO, Casey, and how that probably also is what drew you in as well, because I see so many parallels there. So background for me, I come from, I graduated in mechanical engineering, started my career in supply chain and manufacturing, and then went into entrepreneurship as a photographer. So now coming back into the Blaze community as head of product, I don't necessarily have the technical background that, ideally you would see with like a tech founder. So I'm a non-technical founder is essentially what I am. But bringing it back to what you just shared is you're essentially sending this message that if I don't see somebody out here who looks like me or who, kind of has a similar journey as me, I'm just going to be her. I am going to be that blueprint. And that's exactly what you're doing. And I love that so much because each time, and it sounds like you've affirmed this too, each time you step into that role, each time you step into that energy of, I'm not going to wait for someone to give me the permission to do this. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to get it for myself. That's when folks like myself, folks like Casey, folks like all of our members in our Blaze community who are watching you because you recently did a few workshops and sessions in our last Blaze Virtual Summit. We absolutely need that. So thank you so much, Flo. And to that point, I want to kind of transition into talking about the Blaze Virtual Summit. Tell us about your experience as a speaker and even as a participant in that event.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and Casey did an amazing job, and the whole Blaze group did an amazing job. I think that for me, what I loved was the engagement, right? The engagement in the comment section. It was like on fire. And sometimes as an advocate, you don't realize the power of your advocacy until you hear the feedback from the people who you have impacted, right? And that's why I always tell people, take the time to recognize somebody who has had an impact on you. Say thank you. Just let them know. Because sometimes we don't know if what we are doing is working. So seeing that chat room and seeing people just, oh my God, I relate to this. This resonates with me. And sometimes the other thing is you might feel like you are the only person on earth going through something, right? You are overwhelmed. You feel like what you're doing is not enough. You are, self-critical, the self-doubt. You feel all of those things. And as an entrepreneur, it's difficult, right? I mean, it's just the challenges, especially for women of color particularly. The data shows that, one, when we start our businesses fail quickly, right? Two, what we get paid compared to our counterparts is really small, like $24,000 a year compared to our counterparts who are making over $100,000 a year. JP Morgan Chase study. So getting into this room and participating in a lot of these workshops and hearing that feedback from women and hearing other speakers as well, because I also had a chance to listen to other speakers, you have this sense of, my goodness, I am not alone, right? I am not alone. There are people out there that are going through what I'm going through. And this is why this summit is so critical. And this is why storytelling is so critical, because you realize that you don't have to suffer alone. There are people out there who have gone through what you've gone through that are able to offer, essentially either resources or offer, hey, this is how I got out of my situation. This is how I was able to improve. This is how I was able to leverage technology to help me with my business. So it was just, I just sat there just listening to some of the sessions and also reading the comments. And I just felt, I don't know, you just really feel this just calmness come over you. Just not saying that, you're excited that other people are not, are going through times of darkness, but just calmness or just knowing that you're not alone, right? That there are other people going through this. And through that, there's the bonding that you can have. I've actually befriended somebody who I'm actually chatting with later on today from the summit. So it's building this friendships, gaining the ability to get resources that you might not know, because sometimes, unfortunately, for us, some of these resources are not within reach because no one is really saying, oh, hey, Flo, did you know about this grant? Right? But together, when we share resources that are crucial, that can make a difference of whether my business is able to last another 1 or 2 years, this summit is everything. It's everything. And I hope you guys continue with the summit. I think it's unbelievably critical, and not to mention well run. I have gone to virtual events and you're literally like, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? And this was like Hollywood A-level style type of summit. Yes. So I thank you guys for that, and congratulations on the success of the summit.
Thank you. And so, Flo, I know we are about to wrap up our time here, but I want to again thank you for being a part of the Blaze community. We are because you are, and because you also pour back into us in the way that you have, even just being here on this podcast. Please share with us how we can support you, any upcoming events or offers or things that our listeners can tune into, and how we can stay connected with you and your journey.
Sure. So I'm so happy you asked that. So with the DI Directive, we are a software company, and we just launched our early adopters program. So for anybody who's working for an organization that is serious about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and wants to take those next steps of really leveraging the data analytics to measure and track and stay compliant, we want you. We want you to test drive our platform. And the biggest perk of this, because let's be honest, when you see some of this new software, what do they give you? Like 7 trial-free days. And it's like you're still, by the 7th day, you're still trying to figure out how to even set up your profile. You haven't even had a chance to play around with the software. We're offering 4 months at no cost to qualifying organizations. So if you want to find out if your organization qualifies, just go to our www.didirective.com website. You want to find the Early Adopters Program link. And again, this is a great opportunity for an organization to really test drive our software. Part of the caveat of that is you've got to use it and you got to provide feedback. And essentially, we're looking for people who are like, hey, we will partner up with you. We are going to be your partners, and we're going to use this. You're going to be able to showcase us on the DI Directive website to show that we are essentially part of this case study. I think this is a great opportunity. This is the way we get DI Directive in the hands of organizations that could really, really take advantage of this and excel and continue to excel with their DI initiatives is the help that we need. We got to push this out there. So calling out all chief diversity officers, as well as HR professionals in these major companies, these are the people that we're looking for that can go into our software.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much again, Flo. We'll continue to support and engage with you as such a beautiful addition to this Blaze community. But we appreciate your time here today. Congratulations again on being being the first winner of the Blaze Business Award in the category of Best in Technology. And as you have heard, you can see why it is the best of the best of the best. But we appreciate your time here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Bye.